Hmm. Well, okay. We're on lesson number 140 of the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. Only salvation can be said to cure. And, today we seek to change our minds about the source of sickness. For we seek a cure for all illusions, not another shift among them. We would try to find the source of healing, which is in our mind, because our Father placed it there for us. Is it not? It is not further than ourselves. It is as near to us as our own thoughts. So close it is impossible to lose. We need but seek it, and it must be found. And that's a statement as to the power of your own mind and the ability to use your mind in a way that perhaps hasn't dawned on you as possible because you've been using it lost in a world of space and time, attempting to deal with the problems of the world as if they're in the world and not within your own mind. And all the problems, as we read yesterday, stem from a single problem, that we really don't know who we are. um, and when we know who we are, we come to know who we are, and we recognize our reality is not of this world, even though for another moment we may still be in this world. When we recognize that our reality is not of this world, our reality is beyond this world, and in the reality that we were created in, nothing has changed, and we've never left it. And the fact that God is love and therefore so am I begins to eliminate all the ideas of guilt, and this lesson ties guilt clearly into the idea of sickness, pain, suffering, and death. So today we're not going to seek a cure where there is no cure. We're going to try to get to the source of where the cure really is, and that's where we're joined with our own reality in God as His Son, and allow that to show us that we've been saved from the illusions, our own nightmares, because they do not exist in His reality. He recognizes them not, although He recognizes, and it talks about this early in the Course, that His channel has been blocked, which goes along with the idea that for a second communication has been broken. It wasn't a loss of the perfection, as it says, God recognized that His channel has been blocked and seeks to unblock that block. Now, when Jesus begins to talk like that, it's obvious that God doesn't think or reflect upon Himself the way the human mind, the human condition, and the human mind and the human condition reflects upon itself. However, it can be gleaned in our ability to think about that for a second, what's actually occurring. God only gives. He's a constant source of extension of His own reality, which is love, and you are that reality. And when you are blocked as a channel, the reality doesn't have the ability to extend as He creates to extend, and you're created to extend. So obviously, and this is one of the reasons why it mentions in the Course that the Holy Spirit causes discomfort. He doesn't cause sickness, pain, suffering, and death. It's our reaction to the discomfort that's caused by the Holy Spirit, and that discomfort comes from the repression or the suppression of our own creative reality, our own creative potential, our creative ability, as it's meant to extend, much like water trying to go through a pipe. The smaller the opening, the more pressure there is put upon the pipe from the max flow of water where it starts. That's much like the condition that we're meant to be. We're not meant to have a pressure restrictor placed upon our system our vehicle of communication. We're meant to be able to allow creation as God creates to flow through us as that creation, and create as He creates us, and we will continue to create our own creations. And that's how we come to know ourselves, through the recognition of our own creative ability and the creation of creations, not the manufacturing of solutions within space and time to solve illusionary problems that only lead to a continuation of the illusionary problems until we stop for a second and perhaps read a lesson such as this that says only salvation can be said to cure. So we will not be misled by what appears to us as sick. We're not going to be misled by a world that appears to us as sick, as bodies that appear to us to be sick. We won't be misled by that. We'll understand the cause. We'll understand what's actually going on. And there's no causation in the world. Let's put it that way. So if there's something that has the ability to cause anything, it must be you or God. It's got to be causation. And sickness is just merely turning in on yourself. And the cure is merely the recognition that we are saved from ourselves, that we think that made that ability for it to be possible, because it's not possible in God's world. God's in the universe as God created it. I remember I was in high school. It was college. I was in college, and I saw a young boy sitting in a wheelchair, and he was suffering from a condition that I came later to understand was called spastic diplegia, meaning he was all bound up in his own body and like in a sort of deformed shape. And I looked at him, and suddenly I just knew. I knew that it was just guilt. And I saw in an instant that the release of this young boy from guilt would automatically allow his body, as misshapen as it was, to just become normal or perfect. I don't really know what the word was. I had no idea what was going on at that point in time. I was not exposed to A Course in Miracles. I wasn't a spiritual person. There was no guilt or there was just a recognition of a condition. And since that point in time, even without the Course, I could see that, what straightens people out, what straightens everything out, is a release from guilt. Because guilt is, in a sense, the stoppage of the flow of creative reality, and the putting pressure on yourself as you become more and more tightly bound and closed in upon yourself. So it was an interesting moment. Now, years later, when I finally discovered A Course in Miracles by the grace of God and the introduction to by Jesus, I began to understand, and this lesson states it perfectly, the relationship of guilt to sickness. And I know we put buffers, we have intermediaries that we like to, like germs, things outside of us that we think affect the body in a way that causes it to be something other than healed or cured. But none of that is true. It's just as much as we have angels, those are the devils. Those are, as much as we have thoughts, God has given us thoughts of help. We put out, in response to his thoughts for help, we put out thoughts of rejection of help. And as it says in the Course, thought must produce form. Thought at some level produces form. And that's what we attempt to kick outside of ourselves. And it shows up in the world as all these things that can attack us back. Bugs, viruses, whatever we want to call it. Infections, knives, guns, bullets, whatever you want to call it. None of those have any reality. They're just projected thought forms that we attempt to kick out of ourselves rather than deal with in our own mind, but deal with our own thoughts. The arrows that we shoot at people in our mind become the arrows in the world that people shoot at each other. And it's just the avoidance of our own responsibility for thought. As Jesus says, you're much too tolerant of mind wandering. And what does he tell Helen about, little thoughts of irritation? You don't watch your mind enough for these sort of thoughts of irritation, the thoughts of little bits of anger, little bits and pieces, remnants of the fragmentation of that impact at single moment, in our inability to deal with it all at once, like shards of glass from a shattered mirror fly out there. So that's what we're dealing with in this world, this illusory world, wherein which we think there's things outside of us that could attack us, rather than looking at the only thing that there could possibly be is thought. Is the world is thought. Miracles are thought. You are a thought. And thoughts don't leave their source to go someplace else. Yet in this hallucination that we call a world of space and time, we think we don't remember how it happened, of course, because it happened in that single instant where, the remembering not to laugh gave birth to an entirety of illusion. You can attempt to sequence it as if it happened sequentially, but you can't really, it wasn't really sequenced in a particular way, although it does seem to have a sequential aspect to it, or layers that we need to go back through in order to get back down to the center of our being, the core of our being, and recognize that salvation, which is the idea that we've never left our reality, and our reality is love. So there is nothing to be afraid of, and there's nothing to be guilty for, because nothing really happened, can be experienced. We will not be misled today by what appears to us as sick. We go beyond appearances today and reach the source of healing from which nothing is exempt. We will succeed to the extent to which we realize that there can never be a meaningful distinction made between what is untrue and what is equally untrue. And that's why in the early part of this lesson it talks about the idea of attempts to heal. Psychologists and psychiatrists and doctors attempt to isolate part of the body and heal it separate from the whole, or to think that the mind is in the body, and something can be affected, and so you just merely give up one illusion for another illusion. And this is leading us to the idea that we can have these happy dreams, wherein which we begin to awaken. It doesn't say we wake up, it says we awaken. We have dreams of awakening. And that's what occurs. We begin to waken from the sleep of forgetfulness that is the illusion of space and time, wherein which we think we occupy a body, and our bodies are separate from other bodies. We will succeed to the extent to which we realize there can never be a meaningful distinction between what is untrue and what is equally untrue. Here there are no degrees. and no beliefs that what does not exist is truer in some forms than others. All of them are false and can be cured because they are not true. There's no such thing as degrees, aspects, and intervals in reality, yet we seem, by degree and aspect and interval, to have segmented our reality and layered it, and sequenced it and given it eras of time when none of that is true. So today, do we lay aside our amulets, our charms and medicines, our chants, our bits of magic in whatever form they took. We will be still and listen for the voice of healing, which will cure all ills as one, restoring sameness to the Son of God. No voice but this can cure. Today, we hear a single voice, which speaks to us of truth where all illusions end and peace returns to the quiet home of God. Just wanted to read this one little section up here. Cure is a word that cannot be applied to any remedy the world accepts as beneficial. What the world perceives as therapeutic is but what will make the body better. When it tries to heal the mind, it sees no separation from the body where it thinks the mind exists. Its forms of healing thus must substitute illusion for illusion, which is no substitute at all. It doesn't matter the degree to which you think one illusion is better than the other. An illusion is an illusion is an illusion. One belief in sickness takes another form, and so the patient now perceives himself as well. He's not healed. He merely had a dream that he was sick, and in the dream he found the magic formula to make him well. Yet, he has not awakened from the dream, and so his mind remains exactly as it was before. He has not seen the light that would awaken him and end the dream. And many of you, through the utilization of forgiveness, in moments when you drop all your need for vengeance, all your desire for anyone to be guilty, when we seek forgiveness, and forgiveness comes with the understanding of the Holy Spirit, we begin to see the light, and the light becomes more and more attractive. Now, we have a tendency to make up these magic formulas for where or how it happened, but the only way it ever happened was because we are light. We are creation of light, and then we did not defend ourselves against the light. And we allowed the light of truth to dawn on us for a single instant. And remember that the separation happened in a condition when we were light and there was only love. And for a minute we blinked and we lost track of our reality, and this hallucination arose before our eyes. So it takes a moment of getting used to the light again, and the experience of salvation, wherein which the universal experience of there only being love, God being love, and therefore so are you, and to begin to integrate back into the totality of the light reality that we are whole, perfect, infinite, and eternal in. Its forms of healing thus must be substituted for one belief in sickness that takes another form, and so the patient now, but he is not healed, he merely had a dream, yet he is not awakened. And so his mind remains exactly as it was before. He has not seen the light that would awaken him and end the dream. What difference does the content of a dream make in reality? One either sleeps or awakens. There is nothing in between. So remember that there is nothing in between. There's illusions or illusions or illusions, and they will never be true. And truth will always be true. And you don't have to know the difference. You just have to want and desire truth. And then you can watch the illusion fall away from the utilization of the power of your mind for truth, rather than identifying with the falsity of the ego and experiencing the result that it brings.